Morning. It's my honor today to have Speaker Kevin McCarthy here with us, touring Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, and Brad Winstrup. Brad Winstrup is a member of the Intelligence Committee in addition to being an Ohioan from Cincinnati. And of course, Speaker McCarthy, being in the Gang of Eight, both individuals deal very significantly with intelligence information. It was our goal in bringing them to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base to get briefings here on the base from some of the major issues that are topical right now. Obviously, China and Russia were top on our agenda. The people at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, the men and women are here. Their work, it goes directly to the missions of the Air Force and of intelligence operations that affect every aspect of our national security and what our Department of Defense is trying to accomplish for the battlefields of the future. It's my honor to have these two members, to be able to have them learn what some of the additional things that are happening here. Kevin has been here 3 times before. Brad is here on just about an annual basis. Both of them have been a great deal of help and assistance to me in growing Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. In fact, as you know, we just had the Intelligence Committee here with a retreat that included the Director of National Intelligence, the Director of CIA, the Director of NSA, and the Secretary of the Air Force. And that whole event was initiated by the Speaker himself, indicating from prior trips here that we needed to bring the leadership of the intelligence community here to see what's done at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. But I'm very appreciative of their help. It helps our community, it helps the Air Force, it helps Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, but it also gives an insight into the most important events that we're seeing in the day and the intelligence that's being gathered here. With that, I'd like to introduce Speaker Kevin McCarthy.
Thank you, sir. I want to thank the chairman for again inviting me back, but this is my 3rd time here, but first time as speaker. The reason why I continue to come here is the work the men and women do here. This is essential for the defense and for the future security of America and really for the world of what transpires here. There's a lot of things that happens here that I know those who work here can't talk about. But the one thing I can say to you is thank you. Thank you for the work you do. Thank you for the cutting edge research and other things that you are accomplishing, and I appreciate that. One thing I also appreciate are the 2 congressmen behind me. First, the Chairman Turner. You know, he has a big responsibility, but the responsibility is not just sitting, what you think, for Ohio, but it's really for the nation. When he became chairman of the Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, it was in disarray. He had a much bigger job than those chairmen before him. This committee had run amok. It has become an impeachment committee, and we really needed to reconstitute this committee, to restructure. And under his leadership, it's reaching every single goal that I set out for it. I've watched recently where members on both sides of the aisle, this is the place that gets a lot of the intelligence, things that other members will not see, but it has to make the decisions on investments to make sure to keep America safe well into the future. And I've watched the bipartisan work that he has done on both sides of the aisle, actually bringing the committee here and others, but also doing the part that they need to do going around the world. And not individually and not in a partisan way, but in a bipartisan way, because this committee needs to look at the work that they do as one voice for America. And that's exactly what he's been putting out, and I want to thank him for that work. Chairman Winstrup is very unique in the work that he does, and we spend a lot of time together. Very few members would sit on Ways and Means and have any other committee, but it's really the work behind and the character and what he has been able to do in the past that he sits on Intel. And to make that committee work again, I know Chairman Turner relies on Winstrup to help do that leadership. We've watched it in Ways and Means, but also I've asked him to do something more. That from his background of a medical doctor, from his background and knowledge on Ways and Means, but even more importantly, being a part of Intel, doing that, chairing the Select Committee of COVID, to understand where did it come from, what America did, was it right or wrong on how to deal with it, and to be better prepared for the future for any new pandemics. I don't think it's any coincidence that just now the White House is providing us the intel information about where COVID originated from, even though they had it for quite some time. That is under the leadership of Brad Winstrup and his committee that's actually driving this. It's also very important for us to know, to look back, mistakes that were made, so those mistakes never get made again in any future pandemic. But my work here is anytime I come from Ohio, not just the men and women, but the men and women who work here, I want to thank them for that work. I come here to learn on the cutting edge things that are happening today, so we're better prepared for the future. I will tell you, every time I leave Wright-Patterson, I feel better about where America stands today, but more importantly, that America's prepared for the future. And when we look to the appropriation process coming forward, I want to make sure we have the resources to take to make sure America's safe well into the future and is leading the world again. And that's why I'm here. With that, I turn it over to Congressman, Chairman Brad Winstrop.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all for being here. It's very special for us, I think, today and the many times that the Speaker has come here to see what is being done here. It's extremely important. And I will tell you that as Speaker, Kevin McCarthy has a huge priority in national intelligence and how it parlays into keeping our country safe. And Chairman Turner has done a phenomenal job. We both got on the Intelligence Committee at the same time about 10 years ago. And at that time, the committee was functioning pretty well. But as the Speaker alluded to, it became the Impeachment Committee. And we really weren't getting the job done in the way that we should. And so fortunately, right now, we are humming. We are humming right along thanks to their leadership, both from the Speaker and from Chairman Turner. And I'm proud to sit next to him, especially as two Ohioans being able to sit on Intelligence Committee. But this base here, what goes on at Wright-Pat and with NASIC is extremely important for our intelligence as we defend our country. And as we are able to make sure that we can give our warfighters everything that they need to be able to have an unfair fight, because that's really what we are after. And the more we can have an unfair fight, the more we can deter our enemies. And so much of that capability comes out of the intelligence community, and especially right here at NASIC. We are having some times in our country right now, some tough times, a lot of internal dissent. And I think it's behooves the Intelligence Committee in a bipartisan way to make sure that at all aspects we can get truth out to the American people within our lane. But I do want to say thank you for coming out here today, because we want to continue to stress the importance of this facility. And that's why a few months ago we start what I hope is maybe an annual tradition, as the Speaker and Chairman Turner brought all of the members of the Intelligence Committee, both sides of the aisle, here to have a conference together, but also to see the work that is done here. So very important for Ohio, very important for the nation. Thank you.
Thank you, Brad. Before we open up for questions, I want to thank the Aviation Hall of Fame for hosting us today. They're an incredible asset to our community, and we appreciate their presence here at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base and the work that they do. Questions? Chris?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Turner. Welcome home. Is there anything you can tell us about whether or not the additional work will come to Ohio from Alabama?
Right. So the Space Force Command had a competition process that Wright-Patterson Air Force Base had been part of, and then it was awarded to Huntsville, Alabama. The current Secretary of the Air Force is doing a review of that process to determine whether or not to undo the selection of Huntsville. That isn't an open process. It's not determining where it should go. It is a process of determining should it go in Huntsville or should it not go in Huntsville. The Secretary then has two different options. He can decide that it stays in Colorado Springs. I've spoken to the Secretary about this several times. He's in the process of reviewing the data and information concerning Huntsville and the data and information concerning Colorado Springs. He then has the option, if he determines not Huntsville and not to stay in Colorado Springs, to open up the competition again. And if he does open up the competition, certainly we'll be vigorously competing for this. But at this time, the only decision before the Secretary is Huntsville or not Huntsville. Sure. Other questions?
Are you receiving the bipartisan support for the safety of this country? And I've just not seen anybody from the other side of the aisle here.
Right. So I believe our committee is working on a very strong bipartisan basis. We had nearly 20 members on a bipartisan basis who were here for our Intelligence Committee retreat, and we had full and complete participation from everyone. I think we really have broken the chains of the past where we were in a partisan fight, and we are now working together as a team. I'm very proud to have from the Speaker the charge to do that, and I think we have done that. I think the group today are, obviously I'm hosting the Speaker, and Brad, living in Cincinnati, is so close. Brad has come in and joined us. If you want to say something about
Let me affirm that. I'm doing a tour through Ohio, and anytime I'm in Ohio, I'm going to come here. So, but let me tell you what the chairman has done. In his very first day, in his very first meeting to constitute the committee, he had myself and the Democratic leader, Hakeem Jeffries, there. We both spoke to the committee. And our message to the committee is, this is not a place for partisanship. This is a place to make sure America is safe for the future. Look at what our adversaries are doing. Look where the investment needs to be made. There was mistakes by the past leader of that committee. We watched that committee miss from Afghanistan and other. They were more focused on partisan political maneuvers. And you've got to understand, coming in as chairman after that time, after what Adam Schiff has broken that committee, was a really difficult task. But look at what transpired from there. Before, members weren't even traveling, and it's one of your responsibilities to be able to gather the information. Lots of times they just would travel by themselves. The chairman just put a bipartisan trip that went to a number of countries together. So it's not just working together, it's also showing the rest of the world that the Intel Committee is back, reconstructed, redeveloped to the place it's supposed to be. And I've heard from both sides of the aisle of people who serve on this committee saying this is a new day. I've watched their faces, I watched their opportunity, and I'm really seeing the product that is coming out of there. And I will tell you, even from, we both serve on Gang of Eight, I've seen our work across the aisle really now begin to focus on America's needs. You're not going to know what goes in these meetings, but I will tell you they're fundamentally different now. They're doing the job that's supposed to be done, and we're working together, and we should put the partisanship away when we're dealing especially with foreign threats around the world, and we should only focus on what's best for America. And Chairman Turner is doing that.
Last question.
Yes.
Question about this space. The state legislature, so the House passed a resolution asking Congress to bring it to Wright-Pat. Do you guys do that, or is that can you see the Congress taking a role in trying to get that?
Well, it's Chairman Turner said. They had competition. We tried to keep politics out of it. Alabama won. They're looking at that from the Defense Department to determine, does it stay in Alabama if not? If not, it'll go back to competition, but they'll determine that.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate you all.
Thank you.